Hi folks, how are you doing? I gotta buy a new tripod. That poor thing is having lots and lots of trouble. So I'm looking down at you right now. It is minus 12 degrees here in Nebraska. And we got the wood stove fan going and the furnace fan going and electric heaters in the shops. And I went out and put extra light bulbs inside the chicken coop to help the girls so they don't get too badly cold and stuff. This subject came up this Sabbath here in a group that I was visiting and talking with, and the Apocrypha of Peter, and I'm going to try to find where I got this information so you can study it yourself, but it's just excerpts of that study, okay, of that writing. And there's like 14 or 18 pages, but I'm just going to read different parts to you to see if maybe some of you have never read this, heard about this. And I would love to be able to have that computerized system where the old guy comes up and talks and says all this stuff that, but unfortunately you get this old guy here. So the Apocrypha of Peter quotes Jesus and says, and they will cleave. This is, Peter saying what Jesus said, Yeshua. And they will cleave to the name of a dead man, thinking that they will become pure. But they will become greatly defiled, and they will fall into error, and into the hand of an evil, cunning man, and a manifold dogma. And they will be ruled without law. And that man is Paul. He's dead now. But his doctrine is ruling. This is from Clement of Alexandria, so-called prophetic extracts, a series of detached sentences excerpt from some large work, especially or generally supposed to be his outlines and stuff. So I'm going to go through here, and I took and wrote down some of the, or marked it out, because some of these, again, you got to just take this with a grain of salt here, but supposedly part of the Apocrypha of Peter was actually in the canon way back in the early days, is what I've understood. The closed door is the river of fire, by which the ungodly shall be kept out of the kingdom of God. As it is written in Daniel and in Peter in his Apocrypha, that company of the foolish also shall arise and find the door shut, that is, the fiery river set against them. Many of them shall be false prophets, and shall teach ways and diverse doctrines of perdition, and they shall become sons of perdition. And then shall Yahweh come unto my faithful ones that hunger and thirst and are afflicted, and proves their souls in his life, in this life, and shall judge the sons of iniquity. And the Lord added and said, let us go into the mountain and pray. And going with him, we the 12 disciples besought him that he would show us one of our righteous brothers that had departed out of the world, that we might see what manner of men they are in their form, and take courage, and encourage also the men that should hear us. That sounds like a reasonable offer. And as we prayed, suddenly there appeared two men standing before the Lord, perhaps to the east, upon whom we were not able to look. For there issued from their countenance a ray as of the sun, and their raiment was shining so as the eye of a man never saw the like. For no mouth is able to declare, nor heart to conceive the glory wherewith they were clad, and the beauty of their countenance. Whom when we saw, we were astonished, for their bodies were whiter than any snow, and redder than any rose. I think of redheads. And the redness of them were mingled with the whiteness, and in a word, I am not able to declare their beauty. For their hair were curling and flourishing like a flower, and fell calmly about their countenance and their shoulders like a garland woven of nard and various flowers, and like a rainbow in the air, such was their comeliness. And I saw another place over against the one, very squalid, and it was a place of punishment. And they were punished, and the angels that punished them had their remnant dark, according to the air of the place. And some of there were there, hanging by their tongue, and these were they that blasphemed the way of righteousness. And under them was laid fire flaming and tormenting them. And there was a great lake full of flaming mire, wherein were certain men that had turned away from righteousness, and angels and tormentors were set over them. And there were also women hanged by their hair above that mire which boiled, and these were they that adorned themselves for adultery. And the men that were joined with them in the defilement of adultery were hanging by their feet, and had their heads hidden. Their heads were hidden in the mire, and said, We believe not that we should come unto this place. And I saw the murderers, and them that were consenting to them, cast into a strait place full of evil, creeping things, and smitten by those beasts, and so turning themselves about in that torment. And upon them were set worms like clouds of darkness. And the souls of them that were murdered stood and looked upon the torment of those murderers, and said, O Yahweh, righteous is thy judgment. And hard by that place I saw another strait place, wherein the discharge and the stench of them that were in torment ran down. And there was as it were a lake there. And there sat women up to their necks in that liquid. And over against them many children, which were born out of due time, sat crying. And from them went forth rays of fire, and smote that women in their eyes. And these were they that conceived out of wedlock, and caused abortion. The other men and women were being burned up to the middle, and cast down in dark places, and scourged by evil spirits, and having their entrails devoured by worms that never rested. And these were they that had persecuted the righteous, and delivered them up. And near to them again were women and men, gnawing their lips in the torment, and having iron heated in the heat set against their eyes. And these were they that did blaspheme and speak evil of the righteousness. And over against these were yet others, men and women, gnawing their tongues and having flaming fire in their mouths. And these were the false witnesses. And in another place were gravel stones sharpened like swords, or any spit heated with fire, and men and women clad in filthy rags rolled upon them in torment. On a heap of stones doeth he rest, and shall live in the midst of the gravel stones. And these were they that were rich, and trusted in their riches, and had no pity upon orphans and widows, but neglected the commandments of Yahweh. And in another great lake full of foul matter, pus, and blood and boiling mire stood men and women up to their knees, and these were they who lent money and demanded usury upon usury. And the other men and women, being cast down from a great rock precipice, came into the bottom, and again were driven by them that were set over them to go back up upon the rock, and hence were cast down to the bottom, and had no rest from this torment. And these were they that did defile their bodies, behaving as women, and the women that were with them. They were that lay with another as a man with a woman. And besides the rock was a place full of much fire. And there stood men which with their own hands had made images for themselves instead of Yahweh. And besides them other men and women, having rods of fire, and smiting one another, and never resting from this manner of torment. And yet others near upon them, men and women, burning and turning themselves about, and roasted as in a pan. And these were they that forsake the way of Yahweh. And we besought and entreated him severely, and praying him, saying unto him, Declare unto us what the signs of thy coming, and at the end of the world, that we may perceive and mark the time of thy coming, and instruct them that come after us, upon whom we preach the word of thy gospel, and whom we set over thy church, that they, when they hear, may take heed to themselves and mark the time of thy coming. Now here's an important part. And our Lord answered, saying, Take heed that no man deceive you, and that you be not doubters, and serve other gods. Many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Christ. Believe them not, neither draw near unto them. For the coming of the Son of Man shall not be plain foreseen, but as a lightning that smitteth from the east unto the west, so will I come upon the clouds of heaven with a great host in my majesty. With my cross going before my face will I come in my majesty. Shining sevenfold more than the sun will come in my majesty with all my saints, my angels. And my Father shall set a crown upon my head, and that I may judge the quick and the dead, and to recompense every man according to his works. And ye, King James, and ye take ye that likeness thereof, and learn a parable from the fig trees. So as soon as the shoot therefore is come forth, and the twigs grown, the end of the earth shall come. And I, Peter, answered and said unto him, Interpret unto me concerning the fig tree, whereby we shall perceive it. For throughout all the days doeth the fig tree send forth shoots, and every year it bringeth forth its fruit for its master. What then meaneth the parable of the fig tree? We know it not. And the master, the Lord, answered and said unto me, Understanding thou not that the fig tree is the house of Israel? Even as a man that planteth a fig tree in his garden, and it bring forth no fruit. And he sought the fruit therefore many years, and when he found it not, he said to his gardener, Root up this fig tree, that it make not our ground to be unfruitful. And the gardener said unto Yahweh, Suffer us to rid it of weeds, and dig the ground round about it, and water it. If then it bear not fruit, we will straightway remove its roots out of the garden, and the plant another in its place. Haste thou not understood that the fig tree is the house of Israel? Verily I say unto thee, when the twigs therefore have sprouted forth in the last days, then shall foreign Christ come and awaken expectation, saying, I am the Christ that am now come into the world. And when they, Israel, shall perceive the wickedness of their deeds, that's a key thing, they shall turn away after them and deny him, whom our fathers did praise. Even the first Christ whom they crucified therein sinned a great sin. But this deceiver is not the Christ. Something is wrong here. The sense required is that Israel perceives the wickedness of the Antichrist and does not follow him. And when they reject him, he shall slay with the sword, and there shall be many martyrs. Then shall the twigs of the fig tree, that is, the house of Israel, shoot forth. Many shall become martyrs at his hand. Enoch and Elijah shall be sent to teach them, and this is the deceiver which must come into the world and do signs and wonders to deceive. And therefore shall they that die by his hand be martyrs, and shall be reckoned among the good and the righteous martyrs who have pleased Yahweh in their life. Speaking of those, okay, I think I'm going to stop right there, and then I'll do a part 2 there. So, thank you.